proceed as you come in. Please have a seat. Mr. Bloodworth, please proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Next, guys. Parlor tricks are not legal standards. Legal standards are what matter. Let's review a couple of the important ones. You'll have them in your instructions when you go back to deliberate. Reasonable doubt. I come back to this one again and again. Evidence usually consists of testimony and exhibits presented at trial. What the lawyers say is not evidence. I've come back to this slide in rebuttal of defense's closing. There is a reason the state provided you in its slides with a cite to every single piece of evidence it argued. We told you what transcript page and line number. We told you what exhibit number. Because what the attorneys say doesn't matter. The evidence is what matters. And there's a reason defense counsel didn't cite you to the evidence. Next slide, Scott. A lot of the evidence is circumstantial. It is. People do not video themselves poisoning their spouse. But circumstantial evidence is just as good as direct evidence. You can use circumstantial evidence to conclude fact just as you can use direct evidence. The instruction gives the example of it is wet outside and people are closing up their umbrellas. That makes sense. Let me put it to you a different way. Does everybody know what happened here? Kouri Richins chose Carmen Lauber. The state didn't. Hold on, let me check something. Go back one. Kouri Richins chose Carmen Lauber, not the state. Go ahead, Scott. Thanks. Kouri Richins chose Carmen Lauber because she was the drug dealer she knew. The state granted Carmen Lauber immunity because it cares more about a murder case than a drug deal. That should surprise nobody. Kouri Richins chose Carmen Lauber in part because she had control over her. She could help her out. She employed her to some measure. She could help her out. A little quid pro quo. You give me some drugs, I can help you out with your drug court. Kouri Richins chose Carmen Lauber, not me. Her testimony is corroborated. If you only believe Carmen Lauber's testimony that is corroborated, that is plenty of proof to convict. She was only at that Maverick in Draper 3 times. That's what the digital evidence shows. Each of the 3 times she was there, so was Robert Crozier. Those were the only 3 times he was there. Their testimony corroborates each other in the relevant manner. It corroborates that they met, that he sold her drugs, illicit street drugs, that it had fentanyl. Blues had fentanyl. Corroborates that they weren't prescription drugs. He got them from a plug, not a pharmacy. They were packaged in a little clear baggie, not a prescription bottle. All the testimony of Carmen Lauber and Robert Crozier that matters corroborates each other.
So with these transactions, when Carmen
Go ahead, we've
what did she
seen this
tell
one
you?
again. Crozier was at the gas station 3 times. Carmen Lauber was there every time. The March drug deal. Timing of this is very interesting. Shortly after Eric's death, Carmen Lauber spoke with Kouri Richins and asked, "Please tell me these pills were not for him." Of course she denied it. No. But then, a few days later, she asked for more pills. It's curious as to why. Perhaps to cover up that the pills were indeed for Eric. If I ask for more, she'll know they weren't for Eric. It's also interesting that she said she needed something to get her mind. What? I don't know. Maybe she wanted the pills for herself. This suggests she wanted the pills for herself to calm her mind, which tells you she knows that a pill that she buys from Carmen Lauber is not bad. It's a whole bunch of pills that kill. Consciousness of guilt is evidence of guilt. Kouri had a guilty conscience. She couldn't talk to her father that night, not because she was overcome by grief, but because she could not face the man whose son she had just murdered. We're going to play these clips right here now. This is when Kouri Richins is asked whether she's going to tell her children, whether she's going to talk to her children. Notice Kouri Richins' reaction in the moment. To this will be Katie Richins' reaction in the moment. Go ahead, Scott.
Where are your children now?
One's asleep in that room, 2 are awake with their ear to the door. They go out of the door, please somebody take them out. Where's my brother? He's in this room. No. Do I see my brother? Baby.
Kouri, is there a way you could relocate your boys upstairs?
Yeah.
Because there's going to be a lot of traffic.
Yeah, I'll tell her now. What? Wait, come on.
Kouri Richins walks away.
Bob,
Katie then takes the boys upstairs. In moments of tragedy and profound sorrow, you not only comfort your children, they comfort you. Kouri Richins hides her face because she doesn't know how to react because she is not grieving. She doesn't want to see other people see her non-reaction. She's not grieving because she feels no grief. She just murdered Eric. You heard Deputy Wynn testify. She wasn't crying. Deputy Wynn's body camera did catch a moment of surprise. That's the moment he informed her that he, Deputy Wynn, was sending Eric's body for an autopsy. That's her surprise. She didn't tell anybody that night that Eric used fentanyl because she thought she would get away with it. She didn't think anybody would find out that Eric used fentanyl. And the minute Deputy Wynn said, we're sending his body for an autopsy, that's her reaction. The 2016 empty hydrocodone bottle is immaterial. Eric had no hydrocodone in his toxicology results. The only other hydrocodone reference in the entire body of evidence before you is that investigators recovered on the first search warrant a bag, like a Ziploc type bag, full of hydrocodone pills in the laundry room and the mudroom of the house. Perhaps Kouri Richins removed them from that bottle and staged the crime scene. This is also inconsistent with the notion, having those hydrocodone bottles in the house, pills in the house, is inconsistent with the notion that Eric had a secret drug habit and was going to the street for illicit pain pills, and there's a baggie of hydrocodone in the house. Okay, there is no good reason these images were accessed the same exact minute that deputies departed the house the morning that Eric died. None. And there is, by the way, despite what defense counsel just told you, there is no evidence that Eric Richins sent these images. He sent an image of the Midway Mansion the night before that was accessed at the same time as these images. Sorry, he sent an image of the Midway Mansion the night before, but it was not the image that was accessed at the same time. The image that was accessed at the same time is the distance full view of the Midway Mansion, which makes sense in this context, not the image that Eric sent of the pile of rocks in front of the Midway Mansion. Details matter. We don't know who sent these images, but we do know that they were accessed on Kouri's phone at 8:29, the exact minute that deputies signed the log out of the house, and that whoever accessed them turned the phone this way to view them better. They also viewed the distant image of the Midway Mansion. Maybe she was celebrating the Midway Mansion. Maybe she was celebrating Eric's death. Either way, there is no good reason these images were accessed at 8:29. Kouri Richins minimized how Eric died because she needed to cover up her involvement in Eric's death. The worst minimization was the one to his father. After speaking on March 17th with the medical examiner's office, Kouri Richins told Eric's father, knowing this was not true, that Eric Richins died in part of COVID and in part of the same lung fungus that Jean's wife, Linda, died of. That is not only covering up her involvement, that is cruel. She covered up with the medical examiner. She pretended she didn't know what quetiapine was even though she was prescribed it. She pretended she didn't know what acetaminophen was, even though it's Tylenol, and there is probably not a mother in the United States that does not know what Tylenol is. She pretended she didn't understand the word illicit. She has a master's degree. In feigning ignorance with Dr. Christensen, she was fishing for information to craft her defense. She was asking, was it injected? Did he eat it? She wanted to know what the medical examiners knew so that she could craft around it. She was really worried about the amount of alcohol. On April the 13th, Detective Woody told Kouri Richins that Eric died of fentanyl intoxication. Right after that, she tells Josh, oh, it was just a trace. Chelsea, it was just a trace. It was his lungs that were shot to shit. She is minimizing, deflecting, covering up. She is distancing herself from her murder. Manner of death on the death certificate is immaterial. It's a box we check. It's used for statistical purposes. They turn the information over to the Bureau of Vital Statistics. It's immaterial for this case. You determine the manner of death. It's murder, aggravated murder. Perhaps in a perfect world, the medical examiner would amend the death certificate, but you heard Dr. Ulmer. She signed it on June the 6th, 2022, when the investigation was really in its infancy. And she had one foot out the door. It was her best solution to finish her report before she retired. It is what it is. Bureaucrats. Eric did not ingest the THC gummy laced with fentanyl. When asked if she ate one that night by Deputy Wynn, it didn't seem like he did. Toxicology, there was no measurable THC in the toxicology analysis of Eric's blood or gastric. The THC that they collected on the April 13th, 2022 search warrant, right, the first search warrant, it was found in the cabinet above the toilet in the master bathroom. Wasn't there the night before. You heard Deputy David Pimentel talk about how he searched it. You could see his search on the body cam. It wasn't there. It was put there after Eric died. That's where most of the gummies were. There was also a package in the kitchen, which was never searched the night he died. But all the gummies were sent to the lab for testing. In fact, the gummies, lots of stuff was sent to the lab for testing. None of it confirmed any fentanyl. Brian Holden, he was the state crime lab tech that testified. Detective Haskell works the streets of Salt Lake City, drugs his whole career. Never seen fentanyl-laced marijuana. That's that's cover-up. That's misdirection. Kouri Richins' plan, if it was a plan, to make money on the Midway Mansion is not tethered to reality. Across her portfolio, she lost money, and she lost money on nearly every individual project. She even admitted, it's out of my league, but the margins are so insane that I had to pick it up and then figure it out. Ha, 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 help. That's ha 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 with $3.2 million of other people's money. She is intensely ambitious. Her plan was not tethered to reality because she could not, with more money than she could even imagine, overcome the Corps of Engineers holds on this property. Not going to happen. She asked Eric Richins for input on how much it would cost to rehab the house. That's the text string right there. Read the whole thing. You'll see that she sold the Midway Mansion to him not as a project they were doing, but as just a sale that she was brokering.
Okay, you can clean that one, right?
Okay, ready?
Run.
Okay, I'm getting all freaked.
Cheers, boys.
Yep, come back in the corner with us. There we go.
Richard.
Richard.
Richard, yep.
Richard.
Look, Chachi's still going. Ron, turn the autopsy out of here.
Oh! you were an Afghanistan warrior.
You are an Afghanistan warrior.
People grieve differently. There's no ancient artwork of that photograph. This book provides kind of three pieces of insight into Kouri Richins. The first is she wrote it, had it written, and published it in early 2023 when she knew that investigators were investigating her for the murder of Eric Richins. She promoted it. Her mother sent a book to investigators, all to deflect attention away from Kouri Richins. She also wrote it to make money. You see the emails, they're in evidence. She thought she would sell 100,000 copies in 10 months at $5 profit a copy. That is not tethered to reality. But it does provide insight in how desperate she was for money. That she would trade. She would trade on her sons and the death of her father to make money. The final things it tells you about Kouri Richins is that she wanted, as part of her facade, as part of her appearance of success, privilege, and affluence, she wanted to be an author. But she didn't write it, and you can see from her writings and text messages, Orange Notebook, the notes, the Walk the Dog letter, not only did she not write it, she's not a good writer. But she wanted to appear as one. The appearance was what was important to her. In defense's closing, when you strip out rhetoric that could be argued at any closing, anytime, anywhere, on any case, when you strip that out of defense's closing and you hone in on substance, the entire substance of the defense's argument is based around trying to explain the Walk the Dog letter. Kouri Richins is saddled with this letter and needed to craft the defense around this letter. It's obvious that the letter was written to get her brother to testify to a narrative that would explain everything. Let's unpack the letter in about 15 or so sentences, not with what Kouri Richins wrote, but with what the evidence shows. It's a translation from what Kouri Richins wrote to what the evidence shows. First part, here's what I'm thinking, but you have to talk to Ronnie. He would potentially have to testify to this, but it's super short. What the evidence shows is this says, I'm thinking that if you tell Ronnie to testify to what I'm about to write, it will explain everything and I will not get convicted. Ronnie will need to tell this to my lawyer because I just made it up and it will have to come from him. Never mind that I was arrested 4 months ago. I need an excuse for Ronnie and Eric to be hanging out. Never mind that football season ended a month earlier. I need to explain the fentanyl, and fentanyl must be everywhere in Mexico. Never mind that Eric would have to fly with the fentanyl, and I later say that Eric would not fly with drugs for fear of getting caught. Never mind that I know this story despite Ronnie never telling me. I need to explain why everyone will testify that Eric never used drugs. This kind of happened once with THC gummies on a trip to Hawaii. Hopefully this is enough to corroborate my entire walk the dog story. I need to distance myself from fentanyl. These are my made-up words, but Ronnie can make up his own words. If Ronnie does not say these things, I'm convicted. I need to explain why investigators never found a trace of fentanyl in my home. Never mind that it doesn't make sense that Eric hid the fentanyl after asking me to buy it. Don't get caught passing this made-up story along to Ronnie. That would be horrible. Tell Ronnie to keep the story short so that he does not mess it up. Since his conversation with Eric never happened, tell him that it was only 2 minutes long. Ronnie needs to do this so that I do not get convicted. I can then extract revenge on Eric's sisters. Remember, I just made this story up, so my lawyer does not know it yet. all the evidence in this case proves that Kouri Richins murdered her husband and the father of her 3 children, Eric Richins. There is no other rational explanation for the evidence. And despite all the evidence, Kouri Richins clings to the facade that has enabled her to get away with so much for so long. And despite all the evidence, Kouri Richins doubles down and blames Eric. She is intensely ambitious. See through her facade, check her ambition. Do not let her get away with murder.
All right. Next step. Brittany, if you would please swear in the bailiffs that will watch over the jury during deliberations.
If you'll all raise your right hand. Do you affirm that you will take charge of this jury and take them to some private and convenient place where they may deliberate upon their verdict, allowing no one to speak to them nor to do so yourself unless so ordered by the court, and to return them to the court when they have reached a verdict or when so ordered, subject to the pains and penalties of perjury? Thank you.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, a few additional instructions. If you want to read along, you can fast forward to instruction number 46. Four-person selection and duties. Among the first thing you should do when you go to the jury room to deliberate is to appoint someone to serve as the jury foreperson. The foreperson should not dominate the jury's discussion, but rather should facilitate the discussion of the evidence and make sure that all members of the jury get the chance to speak. The foreperson's opinions should be given the same weight as those of other members of the jury. Once the jury has reached a verdict, the foreperson is responsible for filling out and signing the verdict form on behalf of the entire jury. In the jury room, you will receive a verdict form. Please read the instructions on the form carefully. The verdict form is separated into several sections, one section for each count charged. Each count has separate instructions. When rendering your verdicts, you need to make sure only one verdict for each count is marked. You may be asked additional questions about the basis of your verdicts. Remember, any response you give on the verdict form must be unanimous. Regarding jury questions during deliberations, these instructions should contain all the information you need to decide this case based upon the evidence. However, if you have a question or need clarification during deliberations, please write a note and give it to the bailiff. I will review it with the lawyers. We will answer your question as appropriate. This brings us to one of the more difficult parts of the trial for me personally. A jury in the state of Utah is 8 jurors, and there are 12 of you. We intentionally impanel alternate jurors to ensure against the unforeseen because things happen. Jurors fall ill, they suffer a personal or family tragedy during the length of the trial. Sometimes they simply don't follow my instructions and they get exposed to information that it's not appropriate for them to have. Because we can't see around every corner, we impanel alternate jurors to ensure that an emergency or other unexpected circumstance does not cause a mistrial. We simply can't try a multi-week trial without the help of alternate jurors, and for these reasons, the service and sacrifice of alternate jurors is just as valuable and just as deserving of respect as the remaining jurors. Moreover, the service of alternate jurors does not end when they leave the courthouse today. Rather, the alternate jurors are still subject to all of the court's instructions and restrictions, because if an emergency arises during deliberations, one or more of the alternate jurors may be called back to join deliberations at that point. We could not have expected that all of you would be so hearty and so diligent in following the court's instructions, and so we impaneled 4 alternate jurors. The alternate jurors in this case are jurors 9, 10, 11, and 12. If jurors 9 through 12 would please stand. An important instruction. This case isn't over. You're still impaneled. Please do not talk about the case. Please do not let anyone else talk about it to you. Please do not read, watch, or listen to anything about this case. And do not do any research of any kind about it until I call you personally to let you know that all of these admonitions are lifted. Thank you for your ongoing service in this case. Please rise for the alternate jurors. Greg, I can't see who's over there. Yeah, Greg, if you would let them out, I have a couple of extra instructions for the 8 remaining. Thank you. Okay, please have a seat, folks. Members of the jury, as you deliberate, you may have questions. If you do, please remember, you can write a note, give it to the bailiff. I'll review it with the lawyers, and we'll answer your questions as appropriate. Please remember, though, that the bailiff cannot answer any trial questions for you. Just as you have not been allowed to research or investigate matters on your own during the trial, you may not use any outside source to research or investigate any matter as you deliberate. No online dictionaries, no online maps, nothing outside the evidence presented in this case. We will provide for you in the deliberation room the exhibits. You may take your notes with you. You may take your copy of the jury instructions with you. We'll provide a copy of the verdict form. This case is now submitted to you for deliberation and determination of your verdict. Please rise for the jury. Folks, have a seat. Thank you. Ms. Nestor, Ms. Lewis, anything else on the record?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Mr. Bloodworth, Ms. Sherbanek?
No, Your Honor.
All right. Let's make sure Brittany has your contact information. Regarding scheduling, my normal practice would be to check in with the jury around 4:30 and just ask them what they would like to do regarding continue working into the evening or retire for the day and come back tomorrow morning. Any objection, Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
Ms. Lewis?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. I need one member of your respective teams at least to begin confirming with Brittany after we go off the record that we have consensus regarding the exhibits that have been admitted and will be going back into the jury room. If any disagreement comes up, let me know. We can handle it on the record. Ms. Nestor, anything further at this time?
Your Honor.
Mr. Bloodworth?
No, Your Honor.
All right. The court will be in recess. Thank you for your patience. We're back on the record in 231-500-139. Mr. Bloodworth and Ms. Sherbanek are in the courtroom. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, and Mr. Ramos are in the courtroom with defendant Kouri Richins. As the 8 jurors were walking out and making their way, to the jury room, juror number 2 pulled Deputy Zag aside and handed him this note, and as she was handing it to him said, I thought we were supposed to receive a factual stipulation before we got the case, or words to that effect. And the note says factual stipulation, question mark. How would you like to respond, if at all?
Yeah, it was an exhibit. It's when you were gonna read.
865 is the
It's
exhibit.
regarding, I believe, the Burmester stipulation of fact that we had introduced to Your Honor.
But not read?
But not read.
Yeah.
May I direct them to it by number?
Yes.
I think that might be best.
Can we have a consensus about what the number is?
-65?
Can we confirm? We'll look at it together.
Yeah, that was perfect.
Katie, are you able to pull it up?
It would be 8-65.
If you would mind plugging in, we'll look at it together.
Oh, sure. I don't know if I have a digital copy of that. I think it was a physical.
Scott, if you wouldn't mind plugging in, we'll look at it together.
Yes, Your Honor, I think I'm getting it here.
We did provide Your Honor with a hard copy.
And we marked it with a sticker.
Yeah, we did mark it there, so that might.
For whatever that's worth.
It should be on the screen now, Your Honor.
Yeah. Let's see. It's among the things we're sending back. Yes, Brittany?
Yes.
Okay, so I will just do my usual question, factual stipulation, question mark, answer. Please see State's Exhibit 8-65. Any objection, counsel?
No, Your Honor.
No objection. I had another question, just in the event they want to view a physical piece of evidence.
Like the gummies?
Yeah, any of it, a phone, I don't know.
Yeah.
Ms. Gibson has custody and control of them. She knows that we may need to alert her
Okay,
if they need it. So
Got it.
if that's a question that comes up, we would just have to get to Chelsea and she can bring it over.
we'll keep you posted. Ms. Lewis, Ms. Nestor, Mr. Ramos, any objection?
No.
Okay, that's what we'll do. Now, I'm about to go off the record, but I need a lawyer from each side to stay with the Scott and Katie of your respective sides and reach consensus with Brittany about what's going into the jury room before you leave the courtroom.
Yes, sir.
Even if the lawyer doesn't do any talking, I just need you to stick around. Thank you. Very good. We're off the record. Thank you.